Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, boy. Wow. Seems like forever since we last spoke, and seems like so much has happened since we last spoke. And yes, I'm often starting our Monday programs saying, what the hell? Wow. Anyway, to put us in time and space, it's June 26, 2023, and man, I don't know about you, but I think you know that you're somebody who's truly interested in the way the world works, or doesn't. But somebody who's interested, who follows it. You really know you are when something like what happened in Russia happens. And you find yourself like adrenaline going, needing to know everything as quickly as you possibly can. I was riveted. Two things I quickly realized. One, and I've said this before, but it was so apparent with the happenings in Russia this weekend. Twitter is dead. Twitter as it existed and why people loved it, even as they excoriated the crap on it. But what it was an immediate source of news in times like this weekend. So that reliable, knowledgeable, reputable news organs immediately would post on Twitter in a situation like that. So you could just see as much as was known coming in at you. And I, knee jerk, I went right to Twitter when I found out. And there was nothing. It was an Elon Musk wasteland. I know in many ways he has created things, but boy, has he destroyed things as well. And that's a great loss to those of us who do want sort of immediate information, reliable immediate information. The other thing was, what did I do? I turned on CNN. And that was an old school reaction as well, because it was for this kind of global, huge news event that CNN was made, and where it made its reputation. And they at least did not disappoint as much. They were on it. It's in their blood, in their bones. They know how to do this. And I'm thinking that for CNN, whose ratings must have just gone sky high over the weekend, that maybe that will inform their plans on what it is they want to be. I think they should do what they used to do. Be a much more global, I guess it's more expensive, be a much more global presence, the ability to be the source, again, when things happen. God knows things are happening. So I finally, I was so stunned when it stopped so quickly. And just as it was getting really exciting, and then what? They're turning around? Boy, talk about deflation. Damn. So we're left with a ton of questions, but boy, was that exciting while it happened. And I can only be happy. I think that there's no way this was good for the truly evil Vladimir Putin. It wasn't particularly good for Prigozhin either. God, two vile humans. And this is how history gets made, huh? Two horrible men. Two horrible men with huge egos and material temperaments, commanding other men. This is how the world works. Incredible. Well, so I listen to all the people who really don't know any more than I know, talking about what it might mean. Here's what we're not good at. Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what it means. But I think an obvious takeaway is Putin is damaged, which is wonderful. Which is just wonderful. And if Prigozhin, why am I blanking on his name? I'm not saying it right. If he lives, I'll be stunned. No one does something like that. Humiliates Vladimir Putin and lives. Now, if he lives, that just shows that Putin has truly lost power and is vulnerable. So all in all, I don't know. It seems to me that's good. That's all I have to say. But whoa, was that exciting? It really was. Real time. It reminded you how, during Tiananmen Square watching that thing. That was one of the first where we were all able to see something huge unfolding in real time. Fascinating. So, I don't know. I thought Max Boot had a good read on it when he said that Putin has found out what so many other autocrats have found out before him, that when you unleash the dogs of war, they can come back to bite you. And he points out that, Napoleon invading Russia, you think he ever thought for a minute with his humongous ego that invasion would lead to his exile and the restoration of the crown in France? Do you think Hitler, when he thought, let's go into Poland, thought ahead, think he would end up having to kill himself in a bunker and that Germany would be split, brought to its knees? This is what happens, because war is this unpredictable business. And then he said something I thought also interesting in terms of the Ukraine war, that the assumption has always been that time is on Russia's side because Russia is so much bigger, has more cannon fodder, has more cannon than Ukraine. But it could be that time is actually on Ukraine's side. And that is because the president of Ukraine, unlike the dictator in Russia, was truly democratically elected by his people, is loved and respected by his people. And he and his people are fighting a defensive war because they were invaded. That is all a lot better than what Putin's hand is. No one ever elected him. He's built a house of cards on fear, cunning, graft. And his people don't love him. So it could be, in that regard, the time is actually on Ukraine's side. So I don't know. This Prigozhin, though, what? I mean, you can't make it up. This guy is he's in every aspect, a crook. Just a crook. It is, as is Putin. They're crooks. What we were watching is these two crooks, one commanding a nuclear-powered arsenal, the other commanding, less of an arsenal, but with the audacity to try to move on the king. And if you think about it, what the hell was he going to do when he got there? That's the thing. I mean, the whole time it was happening, the reason the whole thing was so riveting is none of it made any sense unless he was expecting that Russians would rise up, that he had people in the Kremlin that were going to just be with him. But obviously that's not what he had. So it was like the whole thing is so beyond belief. I know. Okay, I'm done. There's no more that I can say than many of you are far ahead of me on this. But you gotta wonder what the deal was that got struck that ended it. And you gotta wonder what's really gonna be the end game here. Whoa. So stay tuned. Just don't look on Twitter. With all that going on, I mean, my head was occupied with a lot of burning questions. But there were two that really stuck with me, and I want to share them with you because I don't have answers. And I don't know that you would have answers. I suppose the one I could probably find an answer to. And here's what it is. Here's the question. It's very simple. And it came to me when I was in my car sitting at a intersection looking at a red light and waiting for the green. And then it occurred to me, who decided that green would mean go? I'm serious. Because, I mean, that's, suffuses our culture now. Green means go. Green didn't mean go until somebody decided it meant go. How did that happen? How did it happen? I'm just asking. And this is one where I figure, sure, I like pondering, wondering, rather than like Googling. But somebody somewhere has to be credited with coming up with, okay, here's what we're going to do. And is this all over the world? I mean, I know in some parts of the world they drive on different sides of the road. It's not all exactly the same, but all over the world, does green mean go? Just asking. And here's another one. And this had to do with, I believe it was Friday night. And I was having some difficulty getting to sleep. And I was tired. I had had guests all week. I was, I'm not used to having a house full. I'm used to living alone with my dog. And so I had a wonderful time, but I was tired. And I was so looking forward to, just sleeping and not, having the house quiet and to myself. And I couldn't sleep. And so I began to employ all these various, schemes and tricks that we've all been told about or learned or whatever to help us, right? So I started doing certain meditative things and, did breathing exercises, tried to slow my head down, concentrate just on my breath. And then I started doing other stuff, relaxing different parts of my body. All these little tricks I've learned, right? But nothing worked. And that's when the question occurred to me. And it actually made me laugh out loud, startling my sleeping dog. But the question is, why do I have to work so hard to relax? Isn't there something inherently funny about that? Why am I there trying this trick and that trick? Well, maybe this will work. Why do I have to concentrate and work so hard? Just let go. There's an irony there. There's also, I suspect, a problem that might be epidemic or endemic in wealthier locales. But there is something funny about having to work really hard to try to relax. It's somewhere in the same ballpark. I remember once walking on a treadmill at a neighborhood gym. And I'd walk over to the gym. It's like 2.5 blocks from my house. I'd walk over there, then I'd walk somewhere on the treadmill, and then I'd do some other, stuff. This is some time ago. But I remember wondering as I watched somebody walk in while I was walking on the treadmill. And I'd seen this person through the window get out of their car. And I was thinking, wait a minute, why would somebody, because I know where she lived, why would somebody drive their car a few blocks over to a gym and then get on a treadmill and start walking for exercise? It's the same kind of strange little thing. Okay, I'll stop. I'm getting myself into a crazyville here. Oh, here it is. My favorite, and I do mean favorite, headline of the weekend. I shall read it to you in its entirety. Harvard researcher who studied honesty is accused of fabrication. Isn't that the best? You don't even have to read the story. As a matter of fact, when I started to read the story, it got too boring. But yeah, she was apparently like considered, I have it right here, a leading scholar in the field of honesty. Honesty. And it turns out Francesca Gino of the Harvard Business School apparently was making stuff up, was fiddling with the numbers and whatever. She was being dishonest as she wrote these, and these were things that were papers that were published in things like the Chronicle of Higher Education and like a lot of other, brilliant people sat and pondered over her findings. What they didn't know is she was making them up. Harvard researchers who studied honesty is accused of fabrication. I love it. Now, just accused, allegedly, Harvard has put her on administrative leave. I doubt she'll be coming back. Ellen, you're just going to jump right in there. Good for you. Well, I have no expertise in this area or idea of why green, but I wonder if the choice of green has something to do perhaps with its visibility, its ease of being perceived in many environments. Is that true? So, is green a color that leaps out at us more than another? I think red beats green in that regard, but maybe that's why red means stop. You would definitely want the color that says stop to be the biggest, the one that catches your attention immediately. So I can see red, right? But this could all be because we've been culturally, we've been brainwashed into thinking these things. I don't know. But you're right, blue doesn't seem to mean much of anything. Well, would anybody have said, let's have blue mean go? I don't think so. But I don't know. Somebody had to come up with it. Oh, is this a new Supreme Court ruling? Chris, you just said me. The Supreme Court on Monday allowed Louisiana congressional map to be redrawn to add another majority black district. The justices reversed plans to hear the case themselves and lifted a hold they had placed on a lower court's order for a reworked system. There were no noted dissents. Whoa! I got a feeling this is John Roberts desperately trying to get his court to look less racist, less political. Okay, because they just did something similar in Alabama. Okay, so this comes after a ruling earlier this month about Alabama's congressional maps, and that will likely add another black member of Congress from Alabama. So here's another from Louisiana, and guys, that's 2 Democratic seats. says here, today's decision, the Louisiana one, follows on the heels of the court's 5-4 ruling earlier this month about Alabama. And like the Alabama, it doesn't explain why the court nevertheless had issued emergency relief to allow Louisiana to use these unlawful maps during the 2022 midterm cycle. It puts the court's intentions last year into ever sharper perspective or interventions. So somebody is exerting some leadership there, because there's no way that Thomas or Alito, especially, would ever have found this Louisiana map unconstitutional. So this is odd. They're just desperately trying to salvage their reputation. What else I got here? And so, you know what? Let me. My problem here is in this silence. My problem is that I don't have. I got too much to talk about, and I'm not sure quite where to go. Hey, remember the artist? Geez, I remember all hell breaking loose. I think Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York at the time, and some museum in New York was showing this. Was it a photograph by an artist named Andres Serrano? And it was a picture of a crucifix in a like tank of urine, and it was called "Kiss Christ." You remember that? All hell broke loose. I mean, I'm sure Giuliani was in there. But here's what's unbelievable. This Friday, in the Sistine Chapel at the Vatican, there was the Pope, seemingly recovered very nicely from all of his surgeries, and he was receiving artists from around the world, because he wanted to show that the church had always and has always and will always be supportive of the work of artists, certainly sitting in the Sistine Chapel under the glory of that artistry would be an incredible place to do so. But guess who was there and had been invited? Yeah, Andres Serrano, the guy who did Piss Christ. He'd been invited, and he was at the Vatican. And he wasn't just at the Vatican, but the Pope. The Pope caught his eye, had known which one of these artists he was. The Pope caught his eye, and according to Serrano, gave him a great mischievous smile and a thumbs up. I mean, that blows my mind. That does. It blows my mind. And Serrano said, I was very, very happy that obviously the church understands that I am a Christian artist and I am not a blasphemous artist. I am just an artist. And believe me, when other media saw that Serrano was there and witnessed this thumbs up from the Pope, I mean, people were like, what the? It's unbelievable. And so the Vatican was asked about the decision to invite this guy. And the bishop, who was in charge of it all, said that the role of the artist is to provoke, to waken us up, call us to a new alertness and a new consciousness. And I think we all just have to work on the presumption of good faith of the artist who is trying to say something challenging and may sometimes have to resort to strong measures to waken us up. Why, that's just mind-blowing. I mean, it's just, whoa! My conservative soul can't stand this Pope. Oh, my God. God bless him. God bless him. Okay. So that was one of my favorite stories, too. And then, I do have to, again, it's summer, guys, and, people take vacations. So here's what's happening. I'm going on vacation. You know me, I'm a real world traveler. I bet you can all name the places that I've been on vacation in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Green Bay. Maybe a side trip to Chicago or Ann Arbor where my brother and sister live. But yeah, that's the kind of traveler I am. So I'm heading back to Green Bay, be with my mother, and driving. It's a hell of a long drive, but I'm doing that and taking the dog with me. And I leave Thursday morning so I can get there before my mother goes to bed. So no show Thursday, and then no show next week, the week after. Yeah, next week. I have done the show from Green Bay when I'm there, but you know what? It's difficult. I'm just not in the right mindset. I don't have, whatever. So I'm just going to take the week off. So we got today, tomorrow, and Wednesday for new shows, and then I'm on vacation for a bit. Okay. Ray writes, can anyone imagine the tolerant acceptance of a work titled Piss Prophet with an image of Muhammad in a jar of... No, can't imagine. We think you should even say it. That's right. That's why it's so mind-blowing. My mind's blown. I don't even know if I was the Pope, if I would have been able to, give that one a pass. I mean, I'm blown away by it. I'm blown away. Generally, very religious people of all religions don't tend to have like a sense of humor about their religion. humor doesn't seem to be part of a. Stop and think about that. I just said something, and I don't know if it holds up, but I'm thinking it would. To me, one of the greatest things in the world is humor. It's what keeps me going. Humor. Is there humor in the Bible? I'm serious. Oh, speaking of the Bible, and this is not humor, but I'm serious. If anybody's got any, can tell me some humor in the Bible. I mean, intended as humor, because there's stuff in the Bible that you can make fun of. You can say, ha, ha, ha. But no, I mean, I think religions tend to be extremely humorless, which is a big deficit. A big something negative to me about that. But anyway, a friend sent me this and said, man, as curses go, is this not just amazing? She says, isn't this a wonderful curse? She had just come across it. And it is Ezekiel. And he's squawking at the Pharaoh in Egypt. Listen to this. I love it. This is fantastic. I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon sprawling in the midst of its channels, saying, my Nile is my own. I made it for myself. I will put hooks in your jaws and make the fish of your channels stick to your scales. I will draw you up from your channels with all the fish of your channels sticking to your scales. I will fling you into the wilderness, you and all the fish of your channels. You shall fall in the open field and not be gathered and buried. To the animals of the earth and to the birds of the air I have given you as food. Then all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am the Lord, because you were a staff of reed to the house of Israel. When they grasped you with the hand, you broke and tore their shoulders. And when they leaned on you, you broke and made their legs unsteady. And those old-time prophets, woo! You wouldn't want one of them coming at you. That was Ezekiel. Don't screw with him. But I'm serious. Humor? Surely there have been treatises written about this. Is there humor in religion? In any holy books? I'm writing this down because I intend to do some further work on that. And if I'm right, and there isn't any humor, that's amazing. There's sex, there's violence, there's all manner of criminality and human folly. But where's the humor? I'm sorry, I'm so taken by this thought, I might never recover. Wow. Okay, I'll try. I'm telling myself, let it go, but it's hard. It's hard to let that go. Let it go. here's something that I was blown away by, and I'm willing to bet that this has to be a little bit old. Sometimes things sort of stay with me, and I don't get around to sharing them. And so I'm not sure how old this is. Not that old. But it's about somebody putting a name on a phenomenon, something that we all recognize is occurring, but there's no word for it. Nobody quite, as a matter of fact, it's sort of like, after World War I, after World War II, and veterans came back and some just totally damaged from the war. There was no way, psychologically damaged. There wasn't any, nobody said, oh, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. So once there's a name, a word, it often helps us recognize the problem and maybe move forward in some way. So this is about something that I have talked about quite often, and has to do with our so-called healthcare system and how it is irretrievably broken. It is about as corrupted and screwed up as you can. It's a horror. And I've talked about it a lot. And I talked about how, the last place you ever want to be is in a hospital in this country. The last place you want to be, we all personally know that going to the doctor is a altered experience, that our doctors now are not like they used to be, that you feel like a nobody, as you are. And doctors aren't allowed to be doctors. And I was talking to a younger doctor that I know, and how they acknowledge that, it ain't what they thought it was going to be. And how they tend to feel sorrier for the older ones, for people as old as me, who started working in a healthcare system that did still sort of function like it was supposed to, where they were able to spend time, let's say, with a patient and provide care, which is why so many go into the field. I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. So here's the word. Somebody has figured out that a term that military psychiatrists have used for soldiers who have emotional wounds, perhaps because they witnessed something or committed that was a transgression of their own moral value. They did something or saw something and didn't intervene that was an assault on their idea of morality. And military psychiatrists have called this a moral injury. They have said it is an injury and it needs to be recognized. And people suffer, truly suffer, from these moral injuries. And doctors on the front lines of America's so-called healthcare system also are many of them struggling with a moral injury of working in these immoral systems now. And there was an article I read that so shows this to be the case. And I thought, I'm sure it's helpful for a lot of doctors to, again, to have, oh, that is what's the problem. Because they've got administrations now and insurance companies that actually force them to stray from the ethical principles that they were taught govern their profession. First, do no harm. And that is why your doctor looks so depressed. That is why your 1 in 5 healthcare workers have quit their jobs in the last 3 years. Yes, the pandemic had a lot to do with it. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And it explains that doctors, despite the esteem, well, he's a doctor. Stop and think of the work he put in to become a doctor. The schooling. Despite the esteem that we still give to people with that designation, doctor. The fact is that a lot of doctors now find themselves subjected to the same kind of demoralizing practices associated with manual laborers. A guy working the line in a car plant, car assembly line. A person running around, in an Amazon warehouse. And you think that's stretching it? No, because doctors now are having their every second tracked, their productivity tracked on a less than an hour. You're to spend 15 minutes with this person. Then we will be scheduling you for another 15 minutes with that. And they are pressured, make no mistake, to work faster. And hospitals, the administrators, are outsourcing some critical emergency rooms. A lot of emergency rooms are staffed, are outsourced. Those are not doctors. They're doctors, but this is that cut costs. A recent study found that 62% of emergency physicians in the United States can be fired without due process. That's because they're contract workers. If you talk to these guys, they will tell you that many of them have been threatened with dismissal for raising quality of care concerns. So in other words, if while trying to save someone's life, they are told to stop or do this or don't do that or you can't do this. And if they raise excuse me, but I'm a doctor, they can be threatened. They say they are pressured to make decisions based on financial considerations that could actually be detrimental to the patient. They get pushed to discharge Medicare and Medicaid patients before they should be. They are pushed to order more testing. Ever wonder about that? Than is necessary. More than 70% of ER doctors agree that the corporatization of so-called healthcare has had a negative impact on the quality of care and on their own job satisfaction. So they're suffering from moral injury, which is a wound that forms when a person's sense of what is right is betrayed by the leaders above them, the people who they work for, have to answer to. And then, because they, to keep their jobs, capitulate and follow the rules of the leaders who are betraying these principles, they then themselves become part of the betrayal because they fall in line. And they become instruments of betrayal themselves. And then you've got moral injury that eats at their souls. No doctor has time to listen to you anymore. They don't get paid for listening. And this insistence on money, revenue has only continued to accelerate. Why do you think pediatric units? You remember hearing that, like, this place has closed their pediatric unit? A lot of hospitals have shuttered pediatric units. You know why? Because treating little kids ain't lucrative. You know, they tend to get better, and then they go away and they're healthy. There's not a lot of money in it. You want to treat adults. And then you have these acquisitions, the consolidation by the big evil ones, the UPMCs, where they take over physicians' practices. You know, doctors used to have their own practices. They don't have their own practices. I'm telling you, they're like pretty high paid assembly line workers now. And then once they take over any doctor who does have a practice still, they start squeezing them. See more patients, cut staff. I wonder why they're leaving. Now, understand, there are some specialties that don't worry about any of this stuff. They're doing just fine because they're doing the kind of special, like an orthopedic surgeon. Certainly those are the types I deal with a lot. They don't have a problem because they are what they do is like an auto mechanic. You know, they replace parts. And they fit very well into this kind of a system. They can do this. Orthopedics so often are not life and death situations. So if you're a plastic surgeon, you're an orthopedist, you're making money hand over fist. The people who employ you are happy. And so this is not something that gets on you. But if you're a pediatrician if you're a GP, if there's any left, if you are somebody who deals with, anyway, I'm just telling you, moral injury. Moral injury. I have a caller there. I'm sorry. Caller? Hello?
Good morning, Lynn. How you doing? This is Ella. The topic, I really enjoyed that topic, and I wanted to share. The veterans are the ones I pray for and that are really hurting at night, and that's what helps me sleep. And that's what helps me sleep. When you're just focused on the injury that they're enduring. Also, I wanted to tell you about the how the green light came about on the stoplight. It was 1840. The British railroads had a red meant danger and white meant safety, and green meant proceed with caution. Now, in 1923, in our country, Garrett Morgan was the first Black American to own a car in Cleveland, and he's the one that came up with the stoplight.
So you did Google it?
Yes, I did. But wait a minute, it was William Potts he was a police officer who came up with the colors. Now, what my take on it is, in confession, they have a green for it. It's empty, and red that it's occupied. And I just had a thought that it's like indirect controlling. You know, when I believe it was President Bush, when he was on that carrier, and he had all these people in yellow. So they're putting out these colors for ulterior motive. I don't know what the motive was, but it's not. I don't think it was very, very appropriate. Just say what you have to say and do. And I also found that in Japan they have blue and green, and it's a combination that they use.
Oh, really? So they don't do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all. Well, Ella, thank you. I mean, yeah.
And one more thing. Do you have the Population Connection? Did you ever read that magazine?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna order you a copy. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye. Oh my. Oh dear. All right. Well. Come on, is there humor in religion? Guys, I am stuck on that. I wrote it down, so every time I turn my eye that way, that's what I see. I have some other thoughts, but they are such downers that I'm unwilling. I'm unwilling to share them at the moment. We might have to stop a minute early just so I don't have to hem and haw here. Yeah. All righty. Yeah, I'm not going to hem and haw for no good reason. I'll go quietly. What a joke. Okay, I will. I'm leaving. Guys, thank you for being there. And I'll be back tomorrow. Susan should be joining us. And who the hell knows what's going to happen between now and then. Your guess is as good as mine. Talk at you later. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.